Thank you everybody for coming, and thank you Kathleen from the Norfolk Senior Center for inviting us here today. My name is Denise Thomas. I'm a program coordinator at the Central Mass Regional Office of the Alzheimer's Association. I'm with the Massachusetts, New Hampshire chapter. The Alzheimer's Association is a national organization, and most states have a chapter. Our chapter headquarters is in Waltham, and then we have regional offices throughout the state. And we're invited here tonight to give an overview of the Alzheimer's Association and identify resources that are available to everybody. The Alzheimer's Association, for anyone who doesn't already know, is the largest nonprofit funder of Alzheimer's research. The Alzheimer's Association's mission is to provide and enhance care and support for all affected. All affected is anyone in this room, anyone in the community. If it's a caregiver, somebody concerned with their own memories, someone that works in healthcare, someone at the library, anybody can contact us for resources, which we'll talk about later in the presentation, what resources are available. The other parts of our mission are to eliminate Alzheimer's disease through the advancement of research and to reduce the risk of dementia through the promotion of brain health. I want to say, if anybody, and I know this program's being televised, so anyone in this room or anyone out there who's participated in the annual Walk to End Alzheimer's, I want to say thank you. The walks occur once a year. The Walk to End Alzheimer's is the world's largest public awareness event and fundraising event. And last month in September, the closest walk to this area was in Foxborough, and it was a successful walk. So thank you, because it's the funds that are raised through the walk that help support the mission, research, care, and support. So thank you very much. All right, so we'll get started with the program with the overview. Alzheimer's disease prevalence. Alzheimer's disease is the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. And out of the top 10 causes of death, it is the only one for which there is no cure or means of prevention. More than 5 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease or another form of dementia. And every 67 seconds, an individual develops Alzheimer's disease. I have some fact sheets available if people want to take one. The statistics are pretty astounding around Alzheimer's disease. Like we said, there are over 5 million people in America living with Alzheimer's disease. That number is projected to grow up to 14 million by year 2050 if a cure or means of prevention isn't found. Right now, there is no cure, there is no means of prevention. There are medications to help with symptoms, but additional research is needed to help find a cure or a means of prevention. Alzheimer's disease is a progressive illness. People progress at different rates. Often people ask, what is the time from when I'm first diagnosed to when I'll decline? Everybody progresses at different rates. The reason Alzheimer's disease is a fatal disease is because of how the disease process happens in the brain by affecting brain cells and the death of brain cells. Since this is an association overview, I'm not going to get into the details of the Alzheimer's disease pathology. We offer educational programs that are free and open to the public, and our educational programs are also online. In general, Alzheimer's disease affects memory, thinking, problem-solving abilities, can affect physical abilities, Alzheimer's disease is one type of dementia, and that's often a common question is, how is Alzheimer's disease and dementia related? Very common question. Dementia is an umbrella term that describes these symptoms, like problem-solving abilities, language abilities, memory, physical functioning. Alzheimer's disease is one type of dementia and constitutes about 70% of all forms of dementia. There are other types of dementia that are less prevalent. Sometimes people can have more than one type of dementia at the same time. Living with Alzheimer's disease. In the United States, 1 in 9 people age 65 and older have Alzheimer's disease. That risk increases after age 85. Statistics show 1 in 3 seniors age 85 and older have Alzheimer's disease. We know that there are certain risk factors. We know that age is the greatest risk factor. That's something we all have in common. Some of the other risk factors we don't all have in common, but we're all aging and we are all at risk. Alzheimer's disease doesn't discriminate. It doesn't discriminate related to race, gender, educational background. Everybody is at risk. And what science shows is that the brain changes I was mentioning, those brain changes can start occurring 10, 20 years before symptoms present themselves. So what does that mean? The brain changes that are going on, any of us or anybody who's, for example, not showing symptoms may have these changes going on right now, and it may not be until later that the symptoms present themselves. We mentioned age as the greatest risk factor. Women are at a greater risk of developing Alzheimer's disease than men. We do know that. Women tend to live longer than men. Family history. Because somebody has a family history of Alzheimer's disease, it is not a determining factor. It may increase our risk of developing the disease, but it doesn't mean that we definitely will develop the disease. There is a genetic component to a younger onset Alzheimer's disease. And when we talk about younger onset, that is Alzheimer's disease that it presents itself under age 65. There is a known genetic component to that. Less than 5% of the cases of younger onset are due to younger onset Alzheimer's disease. So in general, when we're talking about Alzheimer's disease, we're thinking of people age 65 and older. Does that make sense to folks? Okay, so there is that genetic component that's known for a younger onset Alzheimer's disease. It's very rare. Science shows that African Americans and Latino populations are at greater risk than Caucasians. There are risk factors. We talk about brain health. We have programs about brain health. There are some things we can control. There are certain things like the genes we were born with that we can't control. But there are risk factors, things that we can do, like avoiding a head injury. What might be a way to avoid a head injury? It might be wearing a seatbelt. It might be getting stronger so we're at lower risk of falls, or using a cane or a walker to be aware of our safety. So we want to reduce the risk of a head injury. There are ways to do that. And there's a health diet component. So taking care of our hearts with diet, with nutrition, with exercise. These are things that we can do to help ourselves. There are some things that are within our control, and we know that there are things that are out of our control. The focus of the Alzheimer's Association, there are three main components: care, cause, and cure. Educating families and professionals and the community is a large focus of the association. And I thank everybody for coming out for whatever personal reason that brought you here today, and for anybody watching to learn, that people want to learn. And there still is a stigma attached to Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, and a lot of times people don't want to talk about it, and it's very important to talk about. So I thank you for coming. I hope when you leave here today you have some more awareness, and spread the word and let people know that there are resources available to everybody. The association does provide professional education, and a big drive is public policy. The association has a public advocacy department, and the Alzheimer's Association is the leading contributor to Alzheimer's research. About the resources that are available. The resources are of no charge. If anything, when you leave here today, please take a helpline card. 24/7. Anybody can call us. At the end, I'll announce the helpline number. But I want you to know that you can call us anytime, any questions. People can call for support, maybe just need someone to listen to their concerns or frustrations, or someone has questions about long-term care facility, or is there elder law attorney in my area, or is there an adult day health program in my area, is there a senior center in my area? All of the resources are also available online. And so if the computer isn't your thing, or you're not computer savvy, or you just prefer to talk to a person, please call us. As I mentioned in the beginning, there are the educational programs, and there's a brochure over there listing what the educational programs are that we offer. Those are available online as well. For example, All's Connected. That's a section in the website where some people, there's a section for caregivers and a section for people living with dementia. And they share stories. It's kind of like a blog of sorts. And people find it useful if they don't want to go to a support group. Support groups are very important, and maybe they're not for everybody. Another thing, when you can find out when you call us if you're looking for a support group in your area, whether you're somebody living with dementia or a caregiver. The Safety Center, and this is very important. And I brought a brochure about Medical Alert Safe Return. The Safety Center has information about things like driving and wandering. We know that 1 in 6 seniors with Alzheimer's, 1 in 6 people with Alzheimer's disease will wander. Medical Alert Safe Return is a program, it's a program with the Alzheimer's Association. Medical Alert Safe Return came together, and it's someone wears an identifying bracelet. And the way it works is the person with Alzheimer's disease is registered, or another form of dementia, registered with the Alzheimer's Association. When the person goes missing, number 1, call 911, and then there's an emergency line. And when that emergency line is contacted, the Medical Alert Safe Return, then a process is placed where individuals are contacted, whether it's the caregivers, other police professionals, law enforcement in the area. With Medical Alert Safe Return, the caregiver can also have a bracelet. That's a separate part of it, it's optional, where if something happens to a caregiver, then the person that finds them will know that they're caring for someone with dementia, and that person with dementia needs to be identified or looked after, that there's an additional component there. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay. I mentioned the education opportunities. So there's education professional ed, general ed for the public. There's education for first responders, police, municipal employees. There are separate education programs. The Public Policy and Advocacy Department within the Alzheimer's Association, it's called AIM, AIM, Alzheimer's Impact Movement, is the advocacy arm of the Alzheimer's Association. And together, there are efforts made to advocate for increased funding for Alzheimer's research. And over here, there's, I'll just point to the 2012, how things have progressed. And the reason advocacy and advancements have been made with fundraising increase is because of efforts of the community, efforts of advocates. In 2012, with the Alzheimer's Initiative Plan, $50 million was allocated for Alzheimer's research, $50 million. By 2017, $400 million was allotted to the National Institute of Health for Alzheimer's research. The government has heard advocates, has heard the concern of the projection of what's going to happen if additional research isn't done, if a means of prevention isn't found. Just last month, 2018, $425 million was allotted to the National Institute of Health for Alzheimer's research. And that brings it to a total of just over $2 billion just for Alzheimer's research. So I want to thank everybody if anyone's taken part in that. Your fundraising efforts also go toward supporting these efforts for advocacy. And there are two main things that are getting in the way of research. One of them is funding, and the other one is participants in research. Researchers need healthy individuals to participate in research, as well as individuals living with dementia. There are, right now, more than 50,000 volunteers are needed. That's healthy volunteers and people with Alzheimer's disease for over 100 studies in the US. The Alzheimer's Association has a program, it's called Trial Match. And this is, anybody can, you can call or you can do it online, where there's a questionnaire that you'll fill out. And after you're done with the questionnaire, you'll be matched with a trial that you may be eligible to participate in. It might be an online trial if you're a caregiver, or it might be an online trial if you're someone living with memory problems. There are hundreds of studies. So if that's something if you're interested in just finding out about, you can call us and ask about it. Or if you like to use the computer, you can go online and look at Trial Match, because there have been advances in research. And my point is, additional research is needed. Does that make sense to folks? Yes, sir.
Can you tell us what kind of clinical research is going on? Is this with a pharmaceutical, or is it with exercise, or what?
Yep, the question is what kind of research is going on? There are pharmaceutical studies going on. At the end, we're going to talk about a healthy lifestyle study that's just starting this year. I'll mention that at the end of the program. So there are all different types of trials going on. And if anyone's interested in the particulars, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a clinician, but the Alzheimer's Association has information And I can give you the site at the end. You can get to it from our website about all clinical trials that are going on at this time. Thank you for asking. Here's the one, the Pointer study. This is a brand new study. It started this year. It's a 2-year study. Pointer stands for Protection, Brain Health Through Lifestyle Intervention to Reduce Risk. This is a 2-year study that's going to look at supporting brain health through mechanisms of diet and nutrition, exercise, cognitive stimulation. When we talk about cognitive stimulation, we're talking about learning new things, interacting. Hopefully this today is somewhat stimulating for you. Learning something new, socializing, stimulating our thinking, and improved self-management skills. So this study has been launched by the association with a $20 million commitment for it. And what will happen is individuals will be selected for research for this Pointer study, and it'll work in conjunction with a YWCA for wherever across the country that the participants are taking place in. So I'm anxious to hear what comes of the study in a couple of years. There has been research in a Scandinavian country, it was called the Finger study, that showed positive results of this type of lifestyle intervention. There are many ways to get involved with the Alzheimer's Association if you're interested. Lots of volunteer opportunities. The association is volunteer driven. Volunteers are what help our communities get the word out, reduce the risk of, reduce the stigma, help provide education. Additional people are needed to do this. Volunteers are needed to help reach larger communities. I mentioned the Walk to End Alzheimer's. There, if you want to help with the fundraising efforts or be part of a walk committee, it's a wonderful event. Has anyone here been to the walk, any of the Walks to End Alzheimer's? I encourage you to look into it. It's in September, so you'll start hearing more about it maybe around June into the summer. And I encourage you just to even check it out. Like I said, Foxborough's the closest one, but there's one in Worcester, Andover, Greater Boston. Public policy advocate. I mentioned the advocates these are volunteers. They're people living with dementia. They're someone who's just passionate about getting the word out about dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Early stage engagement. The association has an early stage engagement program where when we say early stage, we're talking about someone that's living in the earlier stages of Alzheimer's disease or another form of dementia. And these people can be spokespersons and talk about their experiences. It's very powerful when the community hears from someone living with the dementia. Maybe more so than hearing from someone like myself. This is very helpful. So if you are someone who wants to get involved with public policy, please contact us for that. Support groups. There are many support groups. When you contact us, if you're looking for a support group in your area, support groups are so helpful because we don't want anyone to go through this journey alone. When we say a journey, being a caregiver can be very stressful. And it's too stressful to do alone. So there are support networks out there, and support groups are just one type of support network. And some of our volunteers also do present some of our core education programs as well. I mentioned announce the 24/7 helpline at the end of the program. The 24/7 helpline I've been mentioning throughout, and for folks on TV, watching this on TV, it's 1-800-272-3900. And the website, our local Massachusetts, New Hampshire chapter website, is alz.org/MANH. And that concludes this portion of the program, and I'd be happy to take some questions.